Welcome back to the World Revolution News. I'm Thomas Jefferson, and today is June 24th, 2011.
Welcome everyone from around the world. My name is Emily Pankhurst, and thank you for watching.
We begin in Japan, where the biggest story in decades is simply not being reported with the urgency it deserves. Arnold Gunderson, a former nuclear industry senior vice president, recently made the following remark. Fukushima is the biggest industrial catastrophe in the history of mankind. He also went on to scare us even more with this quote. TEPCO announced they had a melt-through. A meltdown is when the fuel collapses to the bottom of the reactor, and a melt-through means it has melted through some layers. That blob is incredibly radioactive, and now you have water on top of it. The water picks up enormous amounts of radiation, so if you add more water, then you are generating hundreds of thousands of tons of highly radioactive water. End quote. Elevated levels of radiation are being reported by Japanese bloggers all over eastern Japan. There are reports of sick children all over the region. TEPCO has decided on a new system, which comprises of 4 different devices, will function in part to absorb radioactive cesium from 105,000 tons of radioactive water. The equivalent of 40 Olympic-sized swimming pools, trying to turn it into a solid material, so the water can be recycled and used to cool the damaged reactors. The system was broke down last Friday, and was stalled until Tuesday and stalled again. The failure to decontaminate the ever-increasing amounts of water will mean the facility will run out of storage to contain the water and liquid used to cool the devastated reactors, and this could occur in a matter of days. TEPCO has been injecting water into the 3 crippled reactor at a rate of some 500 tons daily to keep them from overheating. But much of the water, some of it highly radioactive, is leaking out from damaged parts and is collecting in the basements of the reactor. TEPCO has also stated water could overflow in about a week once the storage tank that the water is being transferred to is filled. So getting the decontamination system in place is very crucial and very important. An advisor to the government of Japan estimates that an area 17 times the size of Manhattan is probably going to be uninhabitable. TEPCO also said that it would start to build a giant cover shield around the first reactor building on Monday, for a stopgap measure to prevent further release of radioactive substances into the atmosphere. The seriousness of this issue cannot be underestimated or underreported. This is exactly what the mainstream media is doing. Japan is in our thoughts, and we hope more people understand the significance and begin to help to the extent that is truly needed.
I would to introduce everyone to a new periodic segment concerning the weather and the environment, so let me introduce to you our new correspondent, Abigail Adams.
Thanks. I'm Abigail Adams, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. First off, we will begin with Dr. Jeff Masters, who went on to write the following. During the spring period of March, April, and May 2011, 46% of the U.S. had abnormally wet or dry conditions, the greatest such area during the 100-year period of record. On average, just 21% of the country has exceptionally wet conditions or exceptionally dry conditions during spring. In addition, heavy one-day precipitation events, the kind that caused the worst flooding, were also at an all-time high in the spring of 2011. We start with the South, which has been known for high temperatures, low rainfall and everlasting sun, but this drought is already unbearable, with the summer season beginning a few days ago. The Southwest is engulfed with smoke from the record fires in Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico. Firefighters from more than 43 states are involved in the operation to combat these ongoing fires. Lake Travis in Texas is drying up at a rate of 1 foot each week and has already been marked at 23 feet below average for the month of June. In Houston, prior to Wednesday, the city had gone a remarkable milestone of 148 days without getting at least 1/2 inch of rain during this period, which was dating back more than a century. It is not just the Southwest that is desperate for relief, so is the Southeast, where Palm Beach and surrounding counties are currently involved in what is being called an exceptional drought. Palm Beach County is under a burn ban, along with the rest of Florida, and a state of emergency has been declared by Governor Rick Scott. Over 440 brush fires are currently burning in Florida. Fires and floods. The Mississippi River flood this spring was among the largest and most costly ever recorded in the U.S. this past century, comparable in extent to the major floods of 1927 and 1993. Record snowfall above the Missouri and Platte rivers have contributed to flooding along both of these rivers. The Missouri River hit historic highs around northwest Missouri on Wednesday. The Missouri River will remain dangerously high for the foreseeable future, said Colonel Anthony Hoffman of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They show shorelines beating every mark on record, even 1993 peaks. Another flood happened yesterday, when the fourth largest city in North Dakota, Minot, where 33% of the city's population had evacuated. The amount of record floods this year is unmatched. Just like the 1,000-year flood that hit Tennessee last year, this is another landmark. Again, it is not just the Midwest. North Dakota and Minnesota have seen record flooding for each of the last 3 years. And like the South, even Hawaii has had drought issues this year. This, along with the worst tornado season ever, have many people wondering how quickly climate change can happen, despite the media reporting as if nothing is happening, or let alone linked together. As I mentioned earlier, the U.S. has been hit by Mother Nature hard, but the rest of the world has been hit much worse. In the previous year, Pakistan's record floods last year killed some 2,000 people and displaced another 20 million. Many officials say the country is still not prepared to deal with this year's monsoon season. Also in 2010, wildfires broke out across Russia, where a combination of the smoke from the fires, producing heavy smog, covered large urban regions. One German company had estimated 56,000 people died with these various effects in Russia. There was also floods throughout Central Europe last year, and China saw both droughts and floods in different regions in 2010. This past week, the death toll from floods in central, southern, and eastern China since June 3rd of this year have risen to 175, with an additional 86 people missing, says the Chinese Ministry of Civil Affairs. The floods this month had reportedly affected 36 million Chinese in June. We will also finish this segment with whom we started, Dr. Jeff Masters. He went on writing about this unusual global weather with the following passage. A highly extreme precipitation pattern was also observed over the British Isles during spring 2011. England suffered its driest spring in over a century during May, with late May soils, the driest on record, over large parts of eastern and central England. In contrast, Scotland had its wettest spring on record. New Zealand had its warmest May since records began in 1909, whereas Australia saw its coolest March and May since their records began in 1950.
Well everyone, thanks for watching the World Revolution News, and welcome aboard Abigail.
Thanks.
Just remember our motto, here at World Revolution News, it's the United Banking Cartel versus us, and not me versus you, for we are the many, and they are the few.